Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to HockeyBuzzcast. Another week, killer week, crazy week. We're gonna do a quick pre-show here, and then we're getting right into the show. We have so many things to talk about, obviously, and I have officially run out of RAM in my head. All the input coming in, I have no idea how to put it together. We'll get to some of it. Maybe you guys can help me finish the puzzles out. But let me just start with something because so this weekend I was down the shore. I just got back literally 10 minutes ago in my car, and had a great time. And in Atlantic City, on Saturday night, we're sitting there on the beach in Margate, out there with my computer blogging on the beach, which is really pathetic, but I'm out there writing on the beach, which is still fine. And then we see a plane go by that says tonight at the Hard Rock Casino, yes/Asia. So I'm like, that sounds incredible. It sounds like fun. I had no idea they were there. I was like 5 minutes away from them, and they were.
The problem is that most of the good people in both Yes or Asia are not part of this or dead.
Well, let him finish, then we'll get into that. But let him go.
Well, no, I mean, there's an interesting thing for this because I texted you guys, and I'm like, what am I saying? Like, who's going to be in this band? Like, should I go? Because I thought, if no one was going to be in the band, I was going to be like, But then you said a couple people that,
Yes.
Like I like Jeffrey Downs. I'm a big fan of, I'm a big fan of Carl Palmer, Steve Howe. I mean, basically, Yes and Asia can be like a bunch of other bands
and
too.
You can turn them into ELP, King Crimson.
It's an amalgam. It's an amalgam.
There's actually a really good video on Amazon Prime, with Asia in concert, like done in like 2014 with John Wetton, like right before he passed away.
Yeah.
That is really good, and it's kind of what I probably wanted out of this concert. So Kevin, hey Kevin.
It's hard to replace Wetton, though. We were messaging. He was a really good bass player, and people didn't give him credit for that.
Kevin,
he was a really good bass player. So Kevin, you hear us okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, I actually joined, I don't know when the last time I was on, 3 weeks ago. I actually joined that conference. I wonder where everybody was. So,
that's funny.
I'm sitting there, waiting on people, and then I realized maybe I'm in the wrong one. So
that's really funny. All right, so I'm just talking about I'm really quickly talking about my experience seeing Yes/Asia play in Atlantic City on Saturday night. So, as a prog rock person, I've learned lots of things about prog rock over the years, and one is it's very difficult, and two, that you should never bring a girl to it. Never bring a girl to a prog rock concert. That is rule number one. Okay, so, but that I didn't listen to that, and actually, to be fair, my wife actually really loved Asia and wanted to go see Asia. So I'm like, cool. So this was like a Carl Palmer type production, and he did something at the beginning which we didn't get there in time for. We only got there because we decided on all this very late. We got there for Asia and Yes. We saw the two things we really wanted to see. Right. Whatever the opening band was.
Little ELP tribute band.
Yeah, I mean, we did see Asia do Lucky Man. So, like we said, Asia, Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. They're all the same people, right? Roughly. Except they had a different singer. And
let's be fair. Keith Emerson and Jeff Downs aren't even in the same band.
No. Oh yeah, no, they're not.
Sorry,
they're not. Jeffrey Downs is probably best known for being the guy who wrote "Video Killed the Radio Star."
Right. He is really good. He has gotten better over the years. He's just not in that Wakeman Emerson category. That's all.
He's gotten better, but lately he's gotten real. I mean, these guys were undeniably old, and I'm not saying I'm not just saying like beyond just old, beyond. But here's the thing. Okay, as a musician, there's a couple things that are really important when you perform for people. One is that you need to be well rehearsed. Like you need to go through these things, because even though these guys can feel like they can play these songs, they all individually can, but it's not about individually playing music. It's playing your parts. It's about playing as a band, and that is the biggest thing that these things lack, because it's about listening to the rest of the people in the band, and there was no playing together at all, and it was very frustrating because Steve Howe, who's incredibly famous, of course, an amazing musician, they're all still great musicians. Hal and Palmer, Carl Palmer, the drummer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Asia, were trying their best to get the band to play as a band. You could tell they were trying to pull people in, but really,
John Lodge is from Moody Blues. Like, he's never played with these guys other than maybe what they tuned up for before the tour.
This is like the Ringo Starr.
Yeah, I mean,
This is an amalgam. You've thrown together a lot of talented musicians.
Like, remember when Ringo Starr put together an all-star band? He went around and everything years. That when you're playing Johnny Be Good, every musician can do that. When you're playing some of these prog rock songs, that's not Johnny Be Good. You really have to know what the hell.
It's really hard. All right, so the big question, Eck. The big question is, they did Gates of Delirium for the first time in like 30 years. How did that sound?
I didn't stay for it.
Oh my God.
And I'm sorry, but honestly, I love my wife. I love my wife very much, and I couldn't do it to her. Like the concert was 4.5 hours long, Russ. If I stay for the entire thing, 4.5 hours. Okay, so
I have to bring this up with your finish of this story. 1983, second tour, Asia tours. They're at the Memorial Auditorium in Buffalo. I was in high school. A girl I was going out with at the time. We went to the show. The opening act was Chris DeBerg. Don't Pay the Ferryman, Lady in Red.
Yeah. We all booed him.
It was terrible. We wanted him off stage. I get there, 3 songs of Chris DeBerg. The girl I'm with gets sick. I'm the dutiful guy. I'm not I have to take her home now. Yeah, I never see Asia, and I never see Asia in their prime. I saw them 20 years later, but that was always a missed opportunity. So, that was a missed opportunity. You left. Come on.
No, it's not. Believe me, it's not a missed opportunity because the singer for Yes is not John Anderson, first of all.
Right.
I would have stayed for Gates of Delirium if it was John Anderson, because that's a John Anderson song. I mean, that's a completely. All right, so he is okay. The most awful part.
But he's not going to make you mad. Benoit Davidson's not going to make you mad.
He's not going to make you mad. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement for a band. Okay, I don't think anyone's ever left one of my concerts angry. I think that so he's just between John Anderson and Elmo, somewhere in the middle there. His voice is and I don't mean to be mean, but there's John Anderson is a very weird voice. Let's just admit it. We love it because we're used to it. Someone trying to be John Anderson is not a good thing. That's
hard.
Not a voice that someone else should try to do.
He was the first guy who tried. Trevor Horn he was the first guy to replace Anderson on the drama tour. I saw it, and it took him 10 shows to finally hit some of the high notes, honestly.
Yeah, this guy they did some songs I love, but they were not good, and they were really, really bad. No, they don't play together at all. They're not listening to each other at all. They're not a band, so to speak. They are, and there's people in the audience who are going there, us, who are just getting sentimental about this part or that.
You can't do that anymore.
Song, and I get that.
And that's what they're relying on. They're relying on.
Yeah, they're relying on that. And the fact that they're playing Gates of Delirium. I mean, it's this is the funniest thing about this. I'll end on this because I know this is probably boring people to hell, but I'll end on this. The funniest thing was in the intermission between Asia and Yes, there's a guy comes out and says, check out the upcoming shows. Next week, Awaken, a Yes tribute band will be here.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, we're about to see Yes. And a Yes tribute band's here next week. And they're tickets are limited for Awaken, which is there was only 1/3 of the tickets sold for this show. So this show was empty. So I bet you that Awaken, the Yes tribute band, is outselling Yes. Whatever they want to call Yes.
It doesn't shock me. The last thing I'll say is Anderson, Rabin, Wakeman was the last great Yes tour, and that was about a year and a half ago. That was still worth it. I had a feeling what you saw is what you saw, but at least you got some goodness out of it.
We had a blast with Asia. Asia is funny. Asia's just funny. They are 80s. My wife loved it. We were singing along with Asia, but Yes was beyond her.
I don't have any more on this, but I want to ask Kevin something before we start talking hockey. Kevin, over the weekend, the Yankees, being the Yankees, go out and give up a 19-year-old rookie league pitcher who may never pitch in the major leagues for Edwin Encarnacion, who's leading the American League with 21 home runs, makes over $20 million a year. I wish the NHL. I wish this could happen in the NHL because this would make this.
Well, if it happened in the NHL, your Maple Leafs would be the Yankees because they're pretty much printing money in the basement in Toronto, and they'd be able to buy whoever they wanted. They'd have Carlson and Panarin. next season if that was the case. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, I mean, some things never change, even with a luxury tax. Encarnacion, nobody would be able to afford him, but the Yankees.
Right.
Although Seattle is paying some of his salary.
Right, and the thing is like the general reaction from like the Twitter sphere that are Yankee fans is they need pitching. What are they got the guy for nothing. They got him. They got the Seattle retained salary, and they got the leading. That's like getting a 50 goal scorer for an ECHL player. You're not going to turn it down, even if goal scoring is not your crying need.
Oh yeah, and he's going to hit 45 home runs this year. Like there's no doubt about it. And even though he bats 244 or 245 somewhere in that range, he has a lot of pop, and it'll. Like I saw that trade. I just, some things never change. It's, going back to the Steinbrenner, it's not the Minnesota Twins getting Encarnacion. It's the Yankees,
and now before July 31st, they'll end up getting Scherzer or Bumgarner or, Aaron Sanchez or Stroman. One of those, they'll end up getting the pitcher, because they got this guy for pennies on the dollar, so they didn't trade any of their assets.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to see Bob Seger on Wednesday at the Old Pine Knob DTE, and it will be the real Bob Seger, not a fake Bob Seger.
Well, that'll be the real thing. I mean, like that's the real deal. Like, it's not going to be like Bob Seger's third cousin and somebody else.
Yeah, I forget. He must be like 71 or 72 now,
something like that.
And we saw.
I'm impressed by people like that.
68 or 69. My wife and I. And he was just as strong voiced as ever. I'm not sure he can rock the way he used to.
No, but I saw him about 10 years ago, and he was pretty damn good still. So.
Yeah. He still has got a great, voice. And a lot of the guys as they get older, the words become unintelligible. But his, every word he still is really sharp. So.
I would make sure I would go get something to drink or something to eat during like Against the Wind. I wouldn't want to hear that.
Well, these guys were like coughing a lot. I noticed that there's a lot of coughing. Which usually is not something you notice in a band too often, but there was a lot of coughing going on. And even the lead singer they had for Asia was just not. Like, he had his shirt all the way unbuttoned, like basically, and he was like, had like the beard tied up.
Again, he's from the Moody Blues. Think about it, like he's from that era.
Oh, he's from the Moody Blues. That's the guy from the Moody Blues.
John Lodge is from. He's not the original lead singer from the Moody Blues. He was another one of their. It's
oh my lord!
It's not Justin Hayward.
I don't want to date myself, but "Nights in White Satin" by the Moody Blues was my high school senior class song.
That's fantastic.
So.
Mine was "One More Night" by Phil Collins.
Oh, all right.
Mine was
"One More Night" was my junior prom. Yep, but I think mine. I think "Up Where We Belong" may have been my senior one.
My senior song was horrible. I voted against it. It was "I Love These Days" by Billy Joel.
Let me stop you right there. Why am I not surprised that you voted against your senior song?
Well, because it's a better song,
you just continue to perpetuate your image as a guy who likes nothing.
We have to have Russ. We have to have Russ on this show because there has to be one person more negative than me.
No, it's not true.
Yeah, we're gonna talk hockey. I'm sorry. People are getting pissed.
Okay,
we're gonna talk hockey. I'm sorry. It was overwhelming, and I did have my wife cracking up in the show, and it was entertaining. We enjoyed ourselves completely because I was like, at times I was whispering into her ear. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I'm like just trying to keep the band together in some way, shape, or form. Anyway, there you have it. Okay, ready? Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, June 17th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen, and nobody has "I've Loved These Days" on their iPod. Nobody.
Kevin Allen, USA Today Sports.
Soothe our mind with fine cocaine, Russ, right? All right, and I'm actually watching the Isn't that in that song?
No, let's go.
I'm Macklin. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And I want to say that I am we got to start with the big news today, which is obviously Erik Karlsson signing.
Yeah.
And this screams to me an owner who told Doug Wilson to do this. This does not feel, to me personally, does not feel anything like Doug Wilson's MO. This is a, and there is no question that Carlson would sign that, because I don't think any of us expect him to get anywhere close to that. But maybe are we just missing it, Kevin?
I think you're wrong on that. I think Doug Wilson wanted Erik Karlsson, from the beginning. He acquired him last year because he thought he could. He was kind of missing piece, and in the second half of the season, they liked the way he played. They liked the novelty of having both Burns and Karlsson. They knew they were going to have to pay for him once Doughty got $11 million. And, people thought all along, I've talked to people today in the hockey community, and they thought all along that Karlsson was going to go back.
Okay.
Just because, there weren't a lot of options for him because of his salary demands. It's not easy. It's not easy to fit $11 million into your cap. And, he thought the Sharks were capable of winning, and he still does. He still believes in that team. So, it turns out it's a pretty good, fit in his mind. And, it really sort of takes a lot of the glamour out of the free agent class. So I'll tell you that. It's just not, quite not the same. Suddenly now the best defensemen are, Gardner and Myers. And, not having Karlsson up there to kind of create a little fun on opening day, I think this takes the luster out.
Yeah, I disagreed on this last week. I said this is a weak free agent class, and now I think it's even weaker. Now, up front, it might be fairly decent, but yeah, Jake Gardner is going to probably get over $6 million in free agency. Tyler Myers is probably going to be able to leverage this because there's not many really top 4 defensemen in this class. So I think it's going to help him out a lot. But what I'm interested in is the effects this has on the Sharks. Pavelski's a UFA, whether he re-signs now, if the indicators out there is that he's going to test the waters, which I think nobody here thought was going to happen. He's been a lifelong Shark. Probably, I don't know if Thornton's coming back. That was in question during the playoffs. And Kevin, the thing I look at is $26 million invested in their top 3 defensemen: Karlsson, Burns, and Vlasic. I immediately said when Karlsson was signed, look out, even if there's no move clause on his contract, look out for them trading Vlasic, because I don't know how you can spend $26 million on your top 3 defensemen.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, oftentimes I think, we get too carried away with, what you can afford. I believe that everybody can afford 4 top players, but I do see your point, because it's all tied up in defense. And, they look at that now, the percentage of amount of money you're spending on defense now is something that's become a major issue for people as they kind of talk about that, what percentage it, should be. And, they may consider that, but a lot will depend on what happens with Pavelski. I'm with you. I thought for sure he'd resign, and now they're saying it's possible. But I just can't see Pavelski at his age, wanting to go elsewhere. When it comes down to it, is he just going to push them for every dollar he can get and then resign? I don't know.
Here's the biggest thing. So you've got this Karlsson deal where clearly they're not worried about him until like the 5th year of that contract. So that's why they front loaded it. That's fine.
Right.
I would be worried that he's going to even be able to give him 4, but that's okay. He was one of the top scoring defensemen in the playoffs still, and we did talk about that. Even though we know he wasn't the same, he still was better than most.
Right.
But now when you're talking about Pavelski, this is his last contract. He's probably going to want 5 years. I don't think I would want to give him that now based on the way my team is. I can't – basically the way this team is built, once Erik Karlsson is done, whether he's off the books or not, that's when the rebuild is going to start. Yeah. And I can't have a rebuild starting with Joe Pavelski being like 37, 38, 39.
Right. Well, the only advantage with Pavelski is that he's 34 right now. So any contract,
I know,
it's not a 35 and over, so they can buy their way out of it. It'll still have a cap effect.
But it'll still have a cap effect. And again, when in 3 or 4 years, I don't know what Joe Pavelski is going to be, and I'm probably rebuilding at that point. They have to be.
Well, yeah, you would think. Yeah, it's, I still think they'd like to get him signed up, and I don't think that the length will become the factor. I think it'll be the dollar amount, to be honest with you. But I mean, one thing we've noticed in the last couple of years is that it is becoming harder to predict what teams are going to do. They don't always do the most logical move, and but you saw the importance of Pavelski in the playoffs when he went down, and the feeling of the room and all that stuff. So and we all know chemistry is important in this sport. So it's going to be interesting. But I also think that the Sharks are cognizant that there's a transformation going on right now. That this team is getting it's soon going to be not Pavelski's and Joe Thornton's team. It's going to be Hurdle and Timo Meyer
and he has to be signed too. But I looked over their cap situation. One thing that they might do, they have two veteran defensemen on the last year of their contracts, Justin Braun and Brendan Dillon, both of them making a little over $3, one making close to $4, one making a little over $3. With all the money that they're spending on those top three, maybe one or both of those guys get moved out because they simply can't afford them.
Yeah, and I don't think that would hurt them. I don't think either.
Well, I think like guys like Donskoy's gone too. I mean, there's certain players that are definitely gone in San Jose, but I think Pavelski. I think Pavelski is not one of them. I think Pavelski stays. I don't think they go and try to move the last. I think
it depends. I'm just saying what I would want to do, but I'll tell you the one thing they have to shore up now. Now they have to shore up their backup goaltending because Martin Jones has put doubt in everybody's mind, and Aaron Dell isn't going to cut it if Martin Jones doesn't play well for like 20 games.
Yeah.
No. There is a movement. I think everybody looks at their backup goalie as becoming far more important than it was 10 years ago. So
yeah, and I think they if they brought somebody in there, he could probably challenge Martin Jones right now.
The other issue of the Carlson signing is the impact it has on other defensemen. Now, very few can measure to Carlson, but let's look at like Roman Josi coming up in Nashville.
Great point.
Like he does not have the credentials in terms of the Norris trophies that Erik Karlsson has. But let's put it in this terms. Who would you rather have for the next 6 years? Josi or Karlsson?
Yeah, Josi, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're Yossi's agent, you're going to be reminding people of that. And the same thing with Doughty. Now, Doughty is a different beast because, I had someone tell me today, and I thought it was a good description. He's the Chris Chelios of this era.
Yes.
So he's the same no matter what game he's playing, exhibition, playoff, regular season. He is exactly the same. He's a competitive son of a gun.
Well, the one thing with Josi, and the one thing that's a benefit for Nashville, I believe Tennessee is another one of those no state tax states. So
he's still going to require a
lawyer. I'm not disputing that, Russ.
He could cap him out. Like that's what I kept saying.
That's why I believe that they're going to trade Subban, because I think if the option is to sign Josi or trade Subban to clear space to sign Josi, I think they're going to sign Josi and trade Subban. So I think.
Here's what I would say about that. I think you're right, but I think the question is, I don't think there's any doubt they want to trade Subban as their first choice. Right. The question is whether they can trade Subban.
That's correct.
That is so. It's a safe statement to say
sure
they're going to try to trade Subban, but can they get done?
I think there's a team in Ontario that might take him.
Well,
because the Leafs don't have enough problem. You're right, Mike.
Yeah,
at least don't have enough salary issues. That they can't do that. They can't. And then Torres is, Torres is the other out for Nashville that they've got to try to figure out. But another tough player to move.
This is what I said, Kev, a while back. Sorry, if Josi asks for 10x8, Nashville's in a little trouble.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll get done, but I think he's the priority, no doubt about it. But they've never really picked up people's salary when they moved them. But this could be the first time. I don't see that they can trade tourists without doing that.
Yeah, you're right about that.
You're talking 5 years.
They're going to move definitely.
You're talking 5 years at $6 million for tourists right now. So I think any deal that they make with him, because of the length of the term, they're going to have to retain something, probably $1 million, $1.5 million. So unless he's going to a team that needs the cap hit to to get to the cap floor, which I don't see anybody wanting to lock up 5 years of cap hit, especially if he's not performing at the level that a lot of people expected him to.
Yeah, I mean, I asked a couple friends of mine about Carl's trade around the league. One of them, who is a really respected owner, said that I said, do you think that's kind of crazy? He said, well, that's a lot of dollars that they have tied up in their defense resource. When Wilson traded so many assets to get Carlson, kind of put him into a spot that he needs to resign him. That was his thinking.
They really didn't trade. They really didn't trade a ton of it. I mean, they traded draft picks. They traded a couple.
No, they didn't trade a ton of assets.
Yeah,
I didn't think they got too much for me either. That's why I responded. And to me, it's just like Wilson has always been incredibly good at getting people to sign for less than they should.
But
right.
They're not being a huge market for Carlson. I mean, that's my issue. Is we all talked about what else was there for Erik Karlsson out there. Why did you have to go so high on this? Like, why?
Yeah, well, they wanted to make sure, I guess. And didn't want
before Pig went to market,
right?
They wanted to make sure they got him, and
who else was going to give him $11 million
out there? So.
We say that somebody might have.
I don't think so.
Well,
I mean, I can't think of any team that could have done it or would have done it.
I don't think that he would have gotten the term that he got from San Jose. Obviously, San Jose is the only team that could give him 8 years. I think that the Rangers would have come close in terms of dollars, but I don't think they would have gone anywhere close to the term. I don't even think it would have been half of the 8 years. I think they probably would have offered him a 3 or 4 year deal at the most. Russ.
Yeah, that's all they would have given.
He was going to get 7 years from somebody.
No, from somebody. But if the Rangers were going to take him, they would have only done it for as long as Lundqvist would be there.
Right.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to
7 years.
Probably not.
Yeah, 7 years, $8 million.
Well, here's the other thing, though.
Yeah.
Well, it would be tampering for him to kind of know what was out there in the market. But do you think he knew what was out there?
Yes.
All right.
I think he definitely knew what was out there.
That's what I would say too. But I think he kind of knew what his options were.
Yeah.
He definitely knew, and these guys all know. I mean, there's not that many. When you're looking at this kind of a thing, it's like if you're a really rich person buying a house in a town of not all $1 million houses, there's only a few $1 million houses out there, right? So it's like,
right. No, that's right.
Yeah, well, the options are really limited. I mean, he knew the places he could possibly go. He looks at what Tampa's doing, and Tampa's got the Braden Point situation to figure out, and that's gonna be really decimating to them.
What I think is,
he looked at the Rangers and the Rangers, they wanted him, I think, but the Rangers also have other options. The Rangers could very easily go, and let's transition to Jacob Trouba, who I think that's like a team that I think, because what we like the game we like to play here. What are the dominoes about the Erik Karlsson signing? So what are those dominoes to me? There is a slight domino to the big three defense. That are the RFAs that aren't signed.
Right. I mean, I think the domino in relation to Trouba has an asterisk next to it, and I wish Peter was on here because he could explain it a lot better than I could. But Kevin, unless Kurt Overhart and Kevin Cheveldayoff are on the same page, because Trouba has got 1 year, he's an RFA this year. He went to arbitration, so I believe it would only be they could qualify him for 1 year, and then he's a UFA. But obviously, Winnipeg doesn't want him walking away for nothing. But the problem is that I think Trouba's going the same way as Karlsson. Unless he goes exactly where he wants, why is he going to sign an extension? He can go to market next year after what he's scoring 50 plus points. And a lot of people didn't think he was that kind of offensive defenseman. And I'm not saying he's going to get as much as Karlsson, but he can go to market next year, get $8.5-9 million. Why would he, unless it's absolutely the place that he wants to go? He's not signing a deal.
No, and we've talked about that. I honestly don't think there's a place other than Detroit that Trouba would go where he's willing to talk contract beyond this year. Like, I really don't.
Well, one of the issues is I don't know if it's his wife or fiance, but I've heard she's in medical school and down in Florida, so they would kind of like to know, more about what her options will be too. So
and tell me if you think this is accurate, Kev, because we were always talking about Karlsson in Tampa Bay. If Trouba sends the same missive out as Karlsson did last year, saying I'm not going to sign anywhere, and he's a 1 year guy, I think Tampa Bay would be a destination that would be highly interested, because
And it's not the end of the world for Winnipeg if that happens. They would still get a return for him at the trade deadline. The problem will be is that they will be tempted if they're contending to keep him. That's the issue, because he's pretty valuable to them, and they're a team that could easily be in contention and look like a team that has a chance to win the cup. So there's a risk there, but I wouldn't completely rule out that he wouldn't sign with. I mean, I agree with you that his preference would be, why don't I just ride it out, then I can do what I want.
Right.
But if it were to the right team, he might consider it. What if it is Tampa?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at
this case, what happens if that is the case, that the player has that kind of a thinking, is he kind of lets it be known, so he would.
And the beauty of Tampa is they've got assets. Like there aren't a lot of teams. Like the Red Wings really don't have anybody that the Jets
would hurt.
would want.
Unless they're wanting to trade Zadina or somebody like that.
Well, yeah, and who knows? Maybe that's
maybe they're willing to trade a future number one if it's on the back of him re-signing with them. Yeah, conditional. So I
don't see that happening. Because Yzerman has pretty much said publicly that he thinks it's going to take longer than Ken Holland was saying when he was here. So,
well, it would if they didn't have Trouba. I think if they had him, it would take a little less, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the one thing they don't have really is any, premium defenseman. They like Koronik, but there's still some debate whether he's, a top pairing guy or just a guy that can play in your top four. Like he's certainly a guy that can create points. We know that, but other than that, could he really, step up and be a good defender? I think not. So,
well,
go ahead.
I think one of the interesting things that is going to happen over the next couple of weeks is now the number 2 and number 3 defensemen on the market, Myers and Jake Gardner, they're both represented by the same agency. So, and I know they could have different individual agents, but you could basically, they can play off each other and use teams to play off each other and get these guys deals that probably nobody thought was possible. I think the chances of Jake Gardner returning to Toronto went down significantly today with the Karlsson signing, because now Gardner, I think, will get easily over $6 million in free agency. Easily, probably maybe even close to 7, and that's out of the Leafs market. They can't afford that.
Well, possibly. I mean, I think that. I mean, I keep being told that Gardner is very much on their radar, and I know you and I can disagree on this, but I just keep being told that Gardner is very much that Toronto really wants to keep him, and I don't know how much, because Toronto is like, if they're going to move Zaitsev, and now that Karlsson's off the market, not that they were never going to get Karlsson. They were going to may have tried to get Myers. So the reality here is that Karlsson coming off the market makes it harder for them to replace Gardner. I think if anything, they need to have some. At least they know that Gardner would play there. Like they're in a situation where Zaitsev wants out right altogether. So he's gone. So
let's say
they don't have a really strong defense. I mean, Trouba might play there for a year, but I don't know. That's possible if they can make that move. But I think that I've also just got a text that Trouba that the Penguins, that a friend of mine thinks the Penguins are, all the stuff the Penguins are doing is about Jacob Trouba, which could be. I mean, that could be.
They don't have the assets.
They get zero. I'd look at that because I've heard that rumor, but there's no fit there.
Yeah,
there's no fit.
Yeah, unless they're trading.
Yeah,
they're trading Gensel.
Right. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean that could be. Gensel is
Go ahead, X. Sorry.
They like him, but at the same time, he's been more of a playoff guy than he has a regular season guy. So there's like,
but they're not trading him. So they just signed him to a long-term deal because
I agree with you. Them moving Ole Amata out the other night, was another thing that
was the salary talk.
They opened up over $3 million in cap space with that move.
Right. I've heard that for sure.
They haven't believed in him. In a lot.
Well, they rushed him. That was the first thing. They rushed him, then he never found a spot.
And then he had injury problems.
And then he had injury problems too.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, just going back to what you were saying, I mean, ideally the Leafs would like to bring Gardner back. They like him a lot. He's very popular in the dressing room. Gardner likes Toronto, would like to stay there, but the money is the problem. And he's not taking Zaitsev's $4.5 million. He's going to get a lot more than that in free agency. And if, you can say, I'll take a hometown discount and take a little less. We're talking $1.5 million to $2 million less. That's not happening.
I may be wrong too. I think what Eck is saying is partially right in the sense that if they get rid of Zaitsev, they definitely could pay Gardner more than they thought they could.
Right.
I think they're probably telling Gardner, hang around until we see what we could do with Zaitsev, but I don't think Gardner's going to hang around before July 2nd. I mean, he might wait a day. He might say, all right, I won't sign the first day on the chance that I can come back for the close to the salary I want, but that's still a big if.
And the solution
this free agent period that really of all the free agent periods we've had over the last 10 years I've been doing this. This one has more possible trades that are gonna dictate what happened with the free agents than ever before. So right now it's really hard to say.
Well, the biggest problem with this free agent class is it's not any good. I mean, it's not.
The free agent defense aren't any good, but the forwards there's a lot
well,
there.
All right, but you're saying they're not any good, but Jake Gardner will be in demand, and that's why you want.
Sure, yeah, but there's not as this is not one that creates excitement. There's always good players, I mean, but when you ask GMs around the league, they all say the same thing. It's just not exciting. Now, it's there are whether guys, there are always guys. There are always guys, but it's not one that everybody's going like, wow. There's 25 guys here. They're going to be difference makers. There just aren't. There aren't a lot of those guys. But are there players out there that can help a team? Well, yeah, because there always are. But it's not like a great collection of free agents.
No, after that top level, after Panarin, after Duchesne, and now after Carlson. Now Carlson is gone. There's a couple more forwards, and then it's hole pluggers. Then I think teams are looking for bargains. And then we saw the signing yesterday of Carl Hagelin, and we were all having our little group text and chat, and we're like, Hagelin making 2.75, and we looked at it and said, yeah, he got 4 years. He got the term, and that's the reason why he did that deal.
I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I did my top 20, and then we've had guys, signed recently, including Everly and Brock Nelson signed earlier, and a few other guys. I've replaced them with Brian Boyle.
Right.
And, we added Wayne Simmons today, who's coming off just a horrendous season. Mm-hmm. There just is not as many guys that, get everyone excited. So I think it's a better trade market. I think there are a lot of guys available.
I agree.
Right.
In the trade.
Let me ask you.
I think it's definitely a better trade market, and I think that is going to dictate the UFA market this year more than ever before, because the trade market, and I think that's where it's tough to say that there's going to be a ton of teams out there looking to give money to Myers or Gardner. I think that because there are players to be traded, and teams don't have, and if the salary cap is indeed under 83 million, which is now what it's sounding like, right?
Yeah.
Then you're looking at that really does put teams in a bind, and that really does limit the amount of money, and that's why some of these players who are getting these deals done early, that's why Hagelin's going to do that deal every day of the week, because he's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Hagelin can be out there when the Penguins run out of, or the Capitals run out of money. You know what I mean?
Teams can't be left hanging, Aki. If you don't get one of those free agents, you're screwed. That's why they really have to explore the trade market. And then the advantage with trades is it's money in and money out. I mean,
I want to ask Kevin the hardest question, and it came from the chat room because Timothy Park said that Arizona never has cap issues, and that's true. But now they have a new owner. So are they simply handing over the deed, or are they going to actually do something to bolster the team, Kev? What do you think?
Well, the rumors are that they are going to give John Chayka some dollars to try to compete. But I think he's trying to make a trade. I think he's sticking his nose a little bit into the Phil Kessel situation. But there's not a good fit there. That's
right.
Like the fit was better with Minnesota. And the Kessel to Arizona thing makes sense because he's willing to go there.
Right.
I to be honest with you, I think they need a player like Kessel.
Yeah.
The name that I just saw circulating in terms of Arizona moving out is Christian Dvorak. And the funny thing is he didn't play all year last year, and they signed him.
You can't move him.
You can't move. I mean, he's too good of a young player, but I don't know what they.
I don't mean you can't move him because he's too good. He is good, but you can't move him because he didn't play either.
Right. He has to prove that he's healthy enough before his value is reestablished. I agree.
Well, Minnesota always is a team that is. They I've told this before, but it bears repeating that when you do surveys about people's team, other teams in the NHL besides their own home team that they like, Minnesota always never finishes anywhere near the top of that. The Wild don't have a whole lot, beyond Minnesota. They don't have a really big fan following at all. And
I think they're last in almost everything related to national perspective.
Yeah,
so
right. And I think the people in Minnesota often blame that on the fact that they haven't had like the star power type players. Eric Stahl's a pretty good star.
Ryan Suter is.
I mean, and then Suter. They but still, I think they need like that flat out sniper scorer, which is I think where they're going.
How did that work out for him?
Well, yeah, but that was that didn't work out for them. So that's the point.
Wow.
So now you've got Kessel. Kessel does make sense for them. I do agree with you. It's a good fit. It gives them like a sniper.
You can't get Kessel to waive to go there. So
I don't think the last card's been played in that.
Yeah, I think Kevin's right.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I know he doesn't want to go there, but I mean, does he want to go through another season where he just feels like he's not, happy with what the coach expects from him? And
I mean, I think they should let Phil Kessel know that there's still an Orange Julius in the Mall of America. If he knows that, he'll probably go.
Is there a hot dog stand there too?
Oh no, they serve hot dogs at Orange Julius, Mike. Come on.
Every mall has to have a hot topic, though. Is there a hot topic there?
Spencer gift.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So to me, I mean, the Pittsburgh thing is kind of fascinating because we know that Rutherford is going to trying to something. Like he's clearing cap space. There is something in it. Like he is one of the more interesting people, as we know. He likes to make trades. He is up to something, right? So that's what a lot of times trying to figure out what that could be.
It has to be his defense because his defense is.
Well, yeah, you would think it's definitely his defense,
but it's pretty bad.
But who is that? Like, is it Tyler Myers? Is it Gardner? I mean, are we looking at something along the lines of like a real trade, like a Trouba?
I don't think it's a free agent.
But like you're saying, I mean, they don't have any assets to make a deal.
No, they don't. And they don't have what Winnipeg would like to get a defenseman back,
right?
And they don't really have that, and so I don't see where there's any fit there.
Yeah.
Just like in Arizona, that was the case in trading Phil Kessel. Like who comes back? Who's the doctor on that team? They don't really have anybody like that. So
right. I mean, I guess they figured that out at some point. Maybe because that deal was done, except for Kessel turning it down. Is that the deal or no? We never really know. I guess. Was the Kessel to Minnesota deal done if Kessel accepts it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I do want to mention this, Zach. I think the number one priority for Arizona would be to find someone to work with Clayton Keller as far as a line mate, because he went from 65 points to 47, and nothing's fallen off about his game. It was just he seemingly had line mates move around. They need to get a little bit of a veteran guy with him that could keep up with him, and that could produce a lot more points.
Yeah, I think with Clayton Keller, they call it the sophomore jinx, but it's not really the jinx as much as it is, when you're a rookie, you don't know what you don't know. And so you just sort of play on instincts and adrenaline and excitement. And then you come back to second year and everybody knows about you now. So, they know what your tendencies are. They've studied you. The goalies know more about you and everything else. And I think it's hard to maintain the level you had as a first-year player. I mean, we did a study several years ago in USA Today, and it showed that there's often a drop-off between the first and second year. And then what happens between the second and third year, the guy gets ticked off. He hires a personal trainer. He comes in the most unbelievable shape. He can lift a Volkswagen, and he comes back and he makes it a better the third. So I think we'll see that with Clayton Keller. I think he'll just be determined, but I don't disagree with you.
Just by looking at stats, Kev, I don't know the percentages, but Clayton Keller went from 6 power play goals to 1. That's not on him, and I'm willing to say Arizona's power play probably did get worse at some point last year. I know it was bad for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they were one of the teams that was interested in bringing in a former relief assistant, Jim Hiller, who's a power play specialist. I don't know if they ever hired an assistant coach to coach their power play, but I know that was out there, that they were interested in him. Kev, let me just ask you something, because we've had 2 buyouts so far, McDonald and Phaneuf. Do you get the feel that there's going to be a significant amount, or do you think it's just going to sort of peter in and out?
Yeah, no, I think there'll be more, but I don't think it's going to be widespread. It's still hard to sell that to ownership. We kind of throw it around because it just makes sense, but you're admitting you made a mistake usually, and oftentimes it's your mistake, and it's his money. I mean, it's just wasted money. So I think they tend not to, try to avoid it if all possible. But
another job in the world could get away with doing something like that when you think about it, like going up to your boss and saying, "Okay, you know what I want to do?
Yeah,
I'm going to get rid of this thing."
Yeah, no, for sure, and that's why. It's easier when it wasn't your mistake, because then you can go and say, that last guy, he really screwed this up, and we're stuck with it. So anyway, I expect to see more, but I don't think it will be. There'll be a lot of them. I think you're always kind of believe, and most people, like I saw this story recently, like James Neal. Everybody's saying, "Oh, you got to get rid of him. You got to get rid of him." Well, the last story I read, it looked like a realistic approach. Like, who's going to take James Neal right now? So their approach that I read was, well, they're going to just try to work with him and try to figure out if there's a way to sort of draw him back out like he was in Vegas. Well, that seems more logical than, you're not going to buy him out, and you're not going to be able to trade him. So, you got to try to do those things. And I think that's what they'll do in most cases, is just try to figure out a way to, get this guy to play the way he did 2 or 3 years ago. So,
well, and the thing, the other thing is that these guys that get bought out, I mean, their careers may not be over with, because now, Dion Phaneuf is not encumbered by a $5.25 million contract.
Sure.
He can go sign someplace for $800,000, and that might be worthwhile for a team.
He'll get more than that. He'll get $2 million. He will.
Well,
$2 million would be the buyout.
My point is a good one. Like, suddenly, like, he could sign with a contending team, and that contending team would really benefit by having a belligerent guy like
Yeah.
So, like, if Dion Phaneuf is your number 6 defenseman, like, you're pretty happy about that, especially if he comes in that, see the way the salary cap, if you go and look now too, and this is the one I've GMs will have talked to me about this too, that, the way that, basically saying reporters don't think the way they do. Like, there's 3 or 4 guys that are, going to make between $32 and $35 million of your cap.
Right.
Now you're down to $48 million. And then almost all of them count on somewhere between 5 and 7 guys making $1 million. So if it's 7 guys, now you've got 10 guys. So now you got 13 guys left and $40 million. Well, that's $3 million per player. And some of those will get $5 million, So at $83 million, if you only have 3 players making $30 million, that's still a fair. When it gets up to $100 million, guys are going to be averaging about $5 million
right.
With the exception of the entry level guys.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah.
Although the entry level is likely to go up on the next CBA too.
Oh, it will, but it's not going to go up $1.5 million.
No.
So
Yeah, no, it's not for sure. I mean, I've been trying to follow. One of the players I think that's kind of flying under the radar is an RFA who is starting to get some attention. Would be William Karlsson. And in Vegas is in a really bad spot as far as the salary cap goes. They are, and Karlsson has some pretty comparable numbers to like someone compared him the other day to Skinner's numbers are pretty similar. He's been up and down, obviously up and down, but if you go like through the whole thing of it, and Karlsson is a better
team. 2 years. I mean, Skinner has done this for several years. Karlsson's had 2 good years
for sure,
and one
but Karlsson is also
1 year was significantly better than the other.
Right.
So.
Right. And
Yeah,
that's the tough thing. But that's what makes it so difficult to, for Vegas to judge on what they should do with this guy, right? Because obviously, you've got
no team's going to hand him a massive contract because he hasn't been able to duplicate the 40-something goal a year. He was never going to be able to duplicate like a 20-something% shooting percentage. Everybody knew that.
But his qualifying offer would be about $5.7 million because he was signed for $5.25. I think that Vegas, you're going to see after July 1st, because they have the David Clarkson expiring contract with 1 year left. There's a signing bonus on July 1st. After that, it's a $1 million money payout for a $5.25 million cap hit. They can trade that, probably not have to give up a ton to get somebody to take that. And then they would have the room to sign Carlson, but they don't have a lot of flexibility because of all the contracts they signed.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean they're going to have to move somebody. Kevin Miller for sure,
right?
And maybe someone else. But
they could put up. Nick Hag can come up, so they could definitely move Miller, and Hag will come up. Yeah. I think the issue with Carlson is who would want to give him more than 3 or 4 years. I don't know if anybody would, because they're all going to look at it and say, we don't even know what he's going to do next year, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to trade him, though.
That they just need to open up the space to qualify him.
No, I know. I don't think
they get 2 decent lines now.
No, they have great lines.
But Kevin, would you go 6 years deep on William Karlsson? See, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't, but they don't have to. So I don't. There's no reason to give him a.
We also have to factor in that what they could do, Russ, is they could trade off a guy like Cody Eakin who's got a year left in his contract and bring up Cody Glass if they think
they make him too much money. Cody Eakin makes a lot more than you think.
Well, they may, okay, but you know what I'm saying. If you can move somebody out who's making, because Colin Miller has got 3 years left at almost $4 million. But there are teams out there. I know Toronto is a team that has been interested in him for a couple of years. I know their cap situation, but they need a hand shot defenseman, and they probably wouldn't have to give up a ton to get him. So they can move out players without really hurting their core to open up space to sign Carlson if that's what they're looking to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think they will. I mean, they will trade Miller. I don't think they'll have a problem doing that.
No.
And then. They might have to trade someone else. Maybe they're going to want some flexibility. Like they're actually over the cap right now.
Right. Yeah, that's
so.
What? No, Kev. What are you hearing on the? Because I've been expecting, and I think it will probably happen at some point this week. Then Panarin's rights are going to get Panarin or Bobrovsky's negotiating rights might get traded because Columbus only has 2 draft picks, and if they're not going to be able to sign them, then they should be able to get something back to, recoup something of the trades that they made before the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I would think Panarin more so than Bobrovsky. Why,
right?
Bobrovsky, there's only a handful of teams looking at goalies, so why bother? Just go in there and compete for him, and plus, not that many teams are willing. They're going to pay what he's going to want. So, and it looks now like I wondered how. Florida, if they really are interested in Bobrovsky, could afford to do that because who was going to take Reimer, but I guess they're going to buy out Reimer.
Yeah, even if they retain 50% of his salary, $1.7 million is too much for a backup goaltender for a lot of teams. I know that there's been a lot of Toronto speculation about Reimer. If he got bought out, they could bring him in at less than $1 million if he wanted to go back there, or someplace else. I mean, that's the thing. It's like it's price point with these players. If they get bought out, if they take a lower salary, they will get a job. It's just they can't go. Dion Phaneuf, I don't think will get signed if it's $2 million. If it's $1.5 million, I think he'll have a ton of suitors. Same with Reimer.
Yeah, I just don't even know. Like Reimer hasn't played well enough to really
know
why you would want him. So, but at this point, Panarin for sure. I would think that the Islanders or the Panthers or the Rangers would want the first shot at him to have more time to woo him and all that kind of stuff. But we're getting
a little breaking thing here, and then it is hockey related. Sorry to bust in, but there is apparently reports of an active shooter at the Toronto Parade today.
Oh, Jesus.
Just happened in the last 5 minutes. I'm looking at some people who are tweeting that they're being told to take cover.
Oh my God.
And that that a lot. It's near the Eden Square, is it?
Eaton Center.
Right, Eaton Center, right. Queen Street. There's people. The parade's still going on, but people don't know what's happening, and it's just a mess right now. Hopefully everybody's safe. Just want to throw it out there. I don't know.
You know,
again, this is like a horrible situation if it is indeed
I
true.
honestly, I really hope this is a Twitter. I hope it's a Twitter hoax. I really do.
I don't think it's a hoax because it's definitely like people like Saravelli just tweeted out, like Kayla Gray says Bruce Arthur tweeted out. Bruce Arthur tweeted out, gunfire fired at the parade at the bank southeast corner of Nathan Phillips Square.
Yeah, this comes on the heels last year during the playoffs. There was somebody in a I think it was a panel truck that just ran over like 15 to 20 people. I mean, this is
yeah, it's just terrible. I really hope everybody's okay. And right now it sounds like a very, very surreal scene down there right now. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. In case anyone knows anybody at the parade, make sure everybody's okay.
Yeah, it's sort of tough to go back to talking hockey after that. So
yeah, no, I know we do have to end anyway, and I apologize for ending on such a crazy note. I will say, that we really hope everybody's okay out there, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Looks like in the morning, probably. So if you're around the parade or anything like that, make sure that can't believe you'd be listening to us at the Raptors parade. But if you know somebody who's there, make sure they're okay and get out of there. Anyway, sorry about that. But remember, I thought we should, because we have so many Toronto listeners, I thought we should just get it out there. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey, guys. We will talk to you tomorrow.